All right, we would like to welcome you all to the March 25th meeting of the House Committee on Health and Welfare.
It will be
Madam
Representative Fontenot, HB 235. And we will have Mr. Chrisman, please read it in.
Mr. Chairman and members, House Bill 235 by Representative Fontenot relative to sewerage systems to provide for the installation of individual sewerage systems in certain circumstances, to provide for definitions, to provide for an effective date, and provide for related matters.
We have Fontenot on your bill?
Thank you, Mr.
Hey,
Chair.
did you, I'm sorry, before you get started, you mentioned something about some pictures. You have that?
I do.
Ready on the screen? Everything's geared up for you?
I don't know if I can get them up on the screen.
Oh, we didn't get, I'm sorry. I thought you had mentioned you was asking staff to put it on the screen. You just want to pass it out?
I'll show them one more time.
Okay, whatever you need. All right. Rep. Fontenot on your bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members, this bill in really is in simplistic forms as it was drafted here, but the complexity has definitely been brought to my attention. But this is a bill, if you do nothing, you get nothing. And right now, the people in multiple communities across this state are being drowned in poor sewer management of companies and rising sewer costs. And they both are working cohesively together. And I'll start with, as a land developer, I believe that the communities are better served when we have community sewer. But we're also better served when that sewer is properly maintained, good customer service, and that rates become affordable. In places where I represent, for 20 to 30 years, people were paying $16, $20, $22. Today, their system has never been upgraded and paying more than $100 per month for sewer treatment. I've had people who have come to me of elderly age and asked to install a private sewer treatment system that is allowed on all properties. But the law does not allow them to get a private sewer treatment on their property if community sewer is available. There is one exception in the sanitary code that says if the state's health official signs off, that person could disconnect and put in a private sewer treatment plant in their yard. This bill seeks to avoid the approval of the state sanitarian and says if you have private sewer service to your home, you can do what you choose to do on your own property and install a sewer treatment plant that would be approved by the Louisiana Department of Health, some of which may have excluent, some of which may not. My understanding is those systems do not have excluent except for clean water. So I want to show you that these are some photographs that I've taken in just my district. This is a community sewer system, and I'd ask to pass them out, but these are community sewer systems that people are paying $100 a month on and are mandated by law to connect to. It doesn't even have electricity. The people on this street cannot even install a personal sewer treatment plant because the law doesn't allow them. They cannot get a permit from the Department of Health, but they must connect to this system that doesn't even have electricity. This private system, you can see here, is overflowed in this community for 7 months. This is a force main. It's been overflowing for 7 months. It gets corrected, it breaks, it's corrected, it breaks. It's killed all the fish in this community pond. It's damaged, you can see all of the wetlands area there. But by law, these people are forced to be installed on this system. Now, when it gets corrected, DEQ goes out. They've done a huge environmental cleanup here, but the people just behind here do not have the right to do what they want on their own property. They have to continue to pay raising rates and live with this smell in their backyard for $100+ a month. This one is in my backyard. This sewer system is overflowing and has been overflowing outside of the containment ponds, oxidation ponds, for 15 years, to the point that I had to go out and build my own diking system to protect my own fishing pond. I have no other option but to continue to pay this provider. What used to be $20 a month is now nearly $100 a month to continue to leak their sewer on my property. So maintenance is an issue, but I want to finish before I pass these out because I know there's a lot of questions, a lot of concerns. But cost is an issue, and cost is not embedded in the statutorily authority that we have. That authority rests with the Public Service Commission. And I don't know how we correct this, but as companies come here and they buy these sewer systems and they share economic losses or they're in the red, the Public Service Commission continues to raise our rates without understanding the ramifications of these companies fail to do their jobs. Flooding neighborhoods, killing fish, contaminating waters, and no power to a community sewer system. So really, in its simplest forms, all I'm really asking is for people to be able to install a personal sewer treatment processing system on their own property. They typically run about $4,000. That 4 years, 3.5 years, based on what their current rate is with the community system, they could pay for their own system and have free sewer after they pay it off. So, Mr. Chairman, I'd be glad to share these photographs with you and take up any questions this committee has.
Does this Department DEQ or any agency within the state have any oversight over these private companies?
So I'm sure they would be here. I spoke to DEQ this week, and it's really outside the rim of my educative expertise, but we talked about parish permits and water discharge permits, and I've spoken to people on your committee and other members of our body who have concerns that in their parish they have large numbers of private systems that aren't properly maintained as well. And that water is contaminating the waters that they enjoy for recreational use. So we know at this point, if residents aren't taking care of their systems in their parishes and companies aren't taking care of their systems in these parishes, the only people suffering is those people who are flushing their toilets and paying rising rates. So, but the short answer to your question is I think that both the Louisiana Department of Health has authority over these systems, and the Louisiana Department of Environmental Quality gets its authority when it becomes some type of contaminated process.
Yeah, I remember having an issue in my district, and we could not reach the company. The company would not answer the phone, would not respond to the constituents. I think it was called Magnolia. It's within my district. The constituents did not ask to be on this system. They were just put on this system. And so I think this is a big issue. I'm glad you're bringing this bill so we can learn more about it and debate it and see why shouldn't we or should we allow individuals to put their private septic tanks. I don't think anyone should be forced to use this. And then there's also some rumbling about, well, number one, you mentioned that they're increasing their fees. Number two, there's some rumbling that they obviously you can't shut no one sewer off. I don't know if there's a shut-off valve. I don't know if that would work. That would back up in your house. But now they're trying to get water companies to shut off the water if you don't pay your sewer bill. Totally should be a no-go. Not sure if that bill is going to make it to this committee, but I see no reason why you would consider if you're tripling and quadrupling someone's sewer bill, you're not giving them good service, and now you ask the local water company to shut the water off if they can't collect their sewer bill. So great bill. There's questions here. I mean, there's several red cards and white cards that we're going to speak to, so we're looking forward to further questions. Rep. Baralt?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I don't love being the problem child of the day. Yes, I have the parish that has way too many private systems, and they're not being well controlled, and sewage is going into our waterways. So my question, and I don't know legally, could we make this parish specific so that the local parish councils could make the decision on that level, so that in my area we wouldn't necessarily have to do that, but you clearly have a problem in your area and your parish council could go the different direction?
I don't know if I could make this a local bill because of the statutory restraints of advertisements. We have moved in the direction pursuant to population. I think you will see that a lot of these parishes are going to want to be on. But you did bring up a unique something you said just now, is that should local governments have the autonomy to pass an ordinance that would allow people to come on and off? I think that is a different approach that I haven't really thought about. But clearly, back to the chairman's point, it's a conversation that needs to be had. And he brought up Magnolia, and I would start with Magnolia's service is pathetic. It's pathetic. All right. Now, Bryan Fontenot gets very good service from Magnolia just because I'm a legislator. And that's not fair to the people. So when they have a problem, until I get involved and I have to call their attorney and ask them to help us when things get done. It's not fair, number one, to me as an elected official to continuously have to do this for people. All of now people are calling me from your part. Can you please help me? So I agree. You got to call a 1-800 number outside the state. You can't get service. It's coming out the manhole for 3 and 4 days. For hurricanes, they had no plan when Ida hit. So it's a consistent problem that needs to be addressed. But you do have a unique approach that should local governments have the autonomy, the preemption to be able to authorize these systems if it fits their parish, And I appreciate that question.
Yep. Thank you.
I have 2 quick questions. One for you, Rep. Barot. You mentioned that did you say that your parish have a lot of private systems, meaning individual homes, and they have so much that's starting to cause a few issues?
Yes. Yes, and people that have had them for a long time and are not maintaining them, and there's all the sewage flowing in, and then when the parish is going in and trying to regulate it, then you're trying to tell me what to do on my property. But on the flip side of it, their sewage is now in our public waterways. So we have a pretty serious problem in trying to control all the smaller individual systems.
Gotcha. Thank you. I think she mentioned, Rep. Fontenot, about obviously letting the local governing authority decide. I think that's perfect. Do you know if we can also mandate that these private companies, even though they go through PSC, they also have to get approval to the local government before they do these fee increases?
I do not.
Okay, they look at that as well.
Yeah, statutorily, if my understanding by communicating with my member of the PSC, if they in the red, they have no profit, they automatically get a rate increase. Like they vote on it, but if we vote no, the PSC votes no, it's going to turn into a civil litigation. So I wish Representative Carver was on this committee because he's a banker. But what I see transpiring is large equity firms, people that have vast amount of money, come to the state and they buy broken systems. And I think they're trying to help us. I want to be clear. I think that they're trying to better the system. But some people have a brand new system, and when a company comes in and buys an old dysfunctional system, could be sewer or water, and they invest millions of dollars, then the people who have a new system, to spread that debt, their rates are rising. And just before the company is about to make a profit, it buys more dysfunctional systems and it invests more money, and then they have a loss. And the PSC gives them a rate increase. And this train is continuously going up the hill. To some point, those investors, whether we call it Magnolia, Bryan Fontenot Sewer, or Chairman Miller Sewer, at some point, those investors will have a rate of return on their investment that is suitable to them. Right? They really don't care about fixing all of our systems. They care about creating a rate of return on their investment. And when that gets to that cap rate, then it's going to sit still. Until that point, these rates will continue to rise. And I don't know what's a fair rate. Some people tell me that, well, $100 a month just to flush your toilet, that's a fair rate. That's the cheapest in the country. Maybe they are correct. I could tell you this. I could read an email from you from a gentleman who's disabled, is a Vietnam vet, and he's telling me he's sitting in his front yard waiting for them because he got a letter that said he was going to cut off he and his disabled wife from sewer. Now, Representative Miller, I want to address this because you brought this up. The letter that was sent out, it says, I'm going to disconnect your sewer. My appreciation of the law is that's not factual. They cannot cut your sewer off. They can cut your water off. Magnolia has approached my Lafourche Parish Water District multiple times and asked them to turn your water off if you don't pay your sewer. We have continuously told them no. Now Magnolia is trying to drive a bill that should be published this week that would force governments, force water systems to turn your water off if you didn't pay your sewer. If service is not good, why would you pay? If you leak in sewer on someone's property for years, why should you pay? That begs a whole new question, Mr. Chairman. And the law says if you have access to community sewer, you must connect. So if the sewer company comes to my property and they disconnect my sewer because I didn't pay, do I lawfully have access to that system now, or does their disconnection allow me to put in a sewer treatment plant at my home? Because if the answer is I no longer have access to their system, well, then I want to put a sewer treatment. No one should pay. They should get what they pay for. And unfortunately, right now, they are not.
Thank you, Rep. Fontenot. Questions from Rep. Jackson?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. And, you know, we've had there's a lot of conversation around it. And let me say this. I appreciate the spirit and intent of what you're trying to do, because I do agree that I can see down the line where these, you know, some large equity firms come in. I think the president is trying to stop that, by the way, where these large firms coming in, buying up properties, more often than not from seniors and folks who are elderly and disabled, and they're coming up snatching their property because they've got debt or liens on it, and they come by it for pennies on the dollar. My concern is what Rep. Barot and some others have pointed out. I don't know about Chairman Miller's, but in my area, and I don't know about your, but my area, when the water and sewer are connected, when there's a sewer issue or when you don't pay your water, they cut them both off. Correct. So you can't flush your toilet, you can't run the sink, and so that is tied together. And I think I see where you're trying to go. I just don't know if allowing people or individuals to install individual sewer treatment systems, because then what's next? Are we going to allow people to do individual water systems? And so then what happens when they sell it? What happens when they sell their property or something? You know, then who's responsible at that point? Or what if they rent it out? You know, those kind of things that I think, you know, we've got to try to be mindful of. So I'm trying to figure out how can we put this at the local level and give them the ability to regulate this, because we're going to pass a law.
Rep. Jackson, it's coming very shortly that we will.
I'm sorry.
No, I don't mean cut you off, but we will put it attempt to put it at a local level. And then also, and I probably should let Rep. Fontenot answer this, but most of the systems that you're saying work water and sewer together, they're not these systems. That's going to be local government on that system. This bill is just for the systems, the sewer systems that are privatized.
Right, but I think...
I don't think there's any, unless Rep. Fontenot, no, I don't think there's any in the state that has water and sewer.
No, Magnolia, in some instances, is buying water systems too.
But here's what maybe I got lost in my conversation, but a lot of these systems, they come to Shreveport and they come to Caddo and they ask those local governments to come rescue those systems when they start failing.
And that's happening now in Ascension Parish, right? Ascension Parish has had issues maybe with their own system and or with a private system, and then now they're selling or giving or diverting, force majeure, to a private company. So the government doesn't want their hands on sewer. You know why? Because because you got to raise the rate,
right,
as a councilman, or you could just give it to a private company and let them tax you. Okay. Now, let me say this, Rep. Jackson, because you come from a city where everybody has public sewer.
Right.
Where I'm from, and specifically to Mr. False's point, the system stops at his house. He is mandated to be on the system. His neighbor next door and the next 6 homes down, they have private systems in their yard. They have individualized sewer treatment systems. So his argument is, I'm paying $100 a month. My neighbors pay $0. I want to be like my neighbors and be able to discharge clean water through a proper system into the ditch. So if you come from a municipality, I can see your argument. Like, everybody's got good sewer. And I said this in my opening. The state is better served. The community is better health proponents when we have community systems. It's not that way when the systems aren't working properly and the rates continue to rise. It's hard for me to justify those people. You should continue to pay rising rates.
So if the system fails, who would be responsible for those failures?
My appreciation would be the Louisiana Department of Health.
Okay. I mean, I just think that somebody's going to have to take that responsibility on, because when that system fails, the first thing they turn around and do is they go run to the local government.
Yep.
And they say, well, the system isn't right, the system isn't failing, we need you. And then local government says, well, these are our rules to accept them, and you got to meet these benchmarks, because a lot of local governments now don't want to expand their water and sewer systems because they're at capacity at this point. So again, I get where you're going with it. I guess we're just trying to figure out how to work out the details.
And look, this is part of the process, and I don't know if this is the answer, but it certainly is the conversation that's to be had, and I appreciate you.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Before we go to other questions, look, I'm definitely not a plumber, but from my understanding here, I mean, you're going to do a private septic tank in the yard. So I mean, if your system fails, your house is going to become pretty shitty, and so you're going to fix your little private system. It's not going to shouldn't affect the public system, because I think it goes and then it flows all the way into the ditch once it's purified, or whatever word you're looking for. So a system failure is going to harm that person house and ability to flush the toilet. I don't think it's going to affect the ditch, but I mean, I know we have experts come in and testify in a few minutes. Rep. Egan for questions? And this won't work, and I think we could agree, in city areas, right? This is going to be more kind of rural type.
Correct, and I have exempted municipalities out of this. So if you own a municipal, you have municipal systems, you cannot get off, and I've done that under some guidance from this committee about bond initiatives. As a government, we go out and take a bond maybe to repair the system, and if 3,000 people got off, we couldn't pay our bond debt that the bonding commission allowed us to get. So I removed the governments. In the free market world, that's a risk that a business takes whenever it becomes in business, that some people, they can't provide the service and people would leave them.
Yep, and this bill has been out there, so I mean, if any of those private companies wanted to come and defend themselves, they hopefully be here to testify. Rep. Egan for questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Rep. Fontenot, I just wanted you to clarify or reiterate that going back to the individual that you referenced who is being poorly served right now, seeks to install a private system, you did mention that this private system that he would potentially install would be approved by the Louisiana Department of Health.
Yes, he would still have to go get a permit, and look, I'll walk you through the process, because I have multiple rental properties, and all of my rental properties have individual sewer treatment systems. So I go to a licensed provider. He tells me the size of the system based on the amount of rooms, bedrooms, 500, 300 gallons. He gives me a drawing of the system. He gives me a layout of the excluent. I take that to the Louisiana Department of Health locally, work state employees, and they give me an approval. You have to have so many square foot on your property to be qualified to be able to have the system, and I don't know that number. So then I go back to the licensed installer, and they install it after the Department of Health gives me a permit.
Okay. And would you have an idea as how long that process has been in place?
Well, I think that at some point we got people away from septic tanks and field lines, and then the new systems came in, but I don't know.
It's been quite a while.
Yeah,
and
I think so.
The point that I'm making is that, and similarly, I have several properties with individual sewer systems that have been, at their installation, approved based on a formula and have to be maintained appropriately. So I think certainly there's that part of your argument needs to be, again, I think, emphasized and clarified. It is not just allowing somebody to dig a hole in their yard and create a sewerage system. It's a well-identified scientific process that is supervised by the state.
100%. One of the systems that I have on one of my rental properties, I have to test the excluent water. So I have a company that comes out. I have a chlorinator that I personally fill up with chlorine tablets on a monthly basis. That water is chlorinated and a company comes out with a glass, they catch the water, they test the water, and they send it in. I pay for a permit with the Louisiana Department of DEQ to have that discharge and a company test the water.
Thank you. We have questions from Rep. Turner.
Hey, quick question. So I don't know if, sorry, I've been in and out with meetings. Don't know if this has been asked. Let's say we get 10%, 15% of the people have the 1.25 acres or whatever is designated in the parish to do their own system. What happens to the people who don't have the property to be able to do their own system? Where are they at with that, with the sewage part? Has any consideration gone into what their rates would go to and the people that are trapped that cannot do anything and have their own system? That's been my only one of my concerns with the bill.
That's a valid point. If we got, I'm going to say 40,000 people on and 20,000 get off, will it subsequently drive the rate up? I would appreciate an amendment that would prohibit that.
How
the companies?
I mean, not today. I don't want to offer an amendment. I do want to just kind of
want to
look at
remedy
that
the problem.
Right.
Right.
All
But
right.
I think it's a valid point.
Thank you, Rep.
Rep. Jackson, do you have more questions? Yes. 1 second. I'm turning you. Okay.
So I guess I'm just trying to figure out how would this work if you have a situation like in my district. I have a area called Dixie Gardens.
Yep.
Dixie Gardens, this house is not in the city limits.
Right.
But right across the street is the city limits. Or their next door neighbor is in the city limits. How would that practically work?
Does Dixie Garden have community sewer provided by the city?
Some houses do, some houses don't.
If it's provided by the municipality, they're forced to stay on. If they're provided by a private sewer provider, they could choose under this proposal to put in a personal sewer treatment processing system on their own property.
And so let's say it fails and it starts flowing. It starts backing up and all that other stuff. Who's responsible for getting out there fixing that? That private system,
The private landowner.
and it starts backing up into the other person's home.
Well, it can't back up into the other person's home because it's only connected to their house through a multitude of tanks and an aerating system that has an excluent water. It would back up on their property. It wouldn't go into neighbors' homes.
Well, that's what I meant. Back up onto the neighboring property or whatever. That's what I meant.
Yeah. The same way, I guess, I think in all actuality, you probably could respect that nothing's going to happen. Right? That's why she's got the problem she's got in her parish. I got the problem I got in my parish because no one's doing nothing for these problems. But in your question, it's the landowner's responsibility if they have a private system to maintain it adequately.
Even if it backs up into the other person, when there's a failure and it backs up, so they can't go call the city and say, "City, y'all have to get out here and clean this up." And
Correct.
And LDH, I think, or DEQ is not going to be who gets flagged, because I know if the city of Shreveport has a backup or a leak or something, they get flagged. Who gets flagged in the instance of this?
I would think that the homeowner could be fined if they didn't clean it up in the correct time frame.
Okay.
Let me say this, though. A homeowner who has a 300-gallon system versus a commercial system that is probably in the 50,000 gallons a day, a leak on a homeowner's property to get to this moment right here, which is 7 months in the making, could probably take 20 years.
Right.
Right. The homeowner's effluent, most times doesn't even have effluent water. But I do see a problem.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not, I could be, we're
No.
trying to cure one problem and we're creating other
Right.
problems.
Yeah, I don't want perfect to be the enemy of good. So
No, I
I mean, I
understand.
know what you're trying to get
Understand.
to. I'm just trying to figure out some of these nuances that could come up. So, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Rep. Fontenot, I guess I really don't want it to get lost on us that there's a lot of citizens already in the state that operates they have their personal private septic tank. So it's not like we're creating nothing new. It's just we're giving it an option in certain instances.
I'd love to know in rural communities, outside of municipalities, you got to believe that 80% of the people live outside of a municipality currently have this system in their yard now. They have them now.
You might have a good bill because you have no green cards. We're going to go ahead and take on the opposition, hear from them. Present in opposition, do not wish to speak. Clint Cointment, Ascension Parish. Present and would like to speak in opposition is Ben Hunter, Myron Lambert, and Ruth Phillip. Well, those two are from National Water Infrastructure, from Geismar. And then we have Ruth Phillips from Ascension Parish, present in opposition, would like to speak. Could y'all three please come to the table? Members, we also have white cards as present and will provide information if requested from Louisiana DEQ. You have Shane Landry and Kimberly Courts. They're here if you need information. We'll call them up. All right, could y'all three please, one at a time, introduce yourself and you can speak.
Good morning, Myron Lambert, CEO for National Water Infrastructure.
Ruth Phillips, Infrastructure Division Director for Ascension Parish Government.
And Ben Hunter with National Water Infrastructure.
You want to go first, Ben?
Sure. National Water Infrastructure, NWI, is a private utility. We do provide our sewer utility in Ascension Parish. Representative Fontenot referenced the sale of Ascension Parish sewer to NWI. To give a little background, Ascension Parish, as Representative Baralt mentioned in her district, was facing impaired waterways. They were facing rising cost of replacing and operating aging sewer infrastructure. The sale of the sewer infrastructure to NWI was the result of a vote of the people of Ascension Parish who approved that sale. With NWI's current customer base in Ascension Parish, we're able to construct a regional sewer project. Representative Fontenot referenced a 50,000 gallon per day community sewer system. Those smaller sewer systems treat sewer in individual neighborhoods and commercial developments. The regional sewer system that NWI will construct in Ascension Parish will remove approximately 72 community sewer systems, consolidate that to a regional treatment plant, and take that treated wastewater outside of the local watershed, solving the environmental problems that Ascension Parish was facing and that other parishes face. It is not a simple solution. It's a solution that requires significant investment, and it requires support of your local officials and your state representatives to orchestrate that. But we are able to deliver the environmental benefits to Ascension Parish that will allow continued development and treatment of wastewater and getting that water outside of the local watershed and outside of local waterways. Our concern with the bill as drafted is allowing the opt-outs from that. We will build the first phase of our project, which is 100% designed, and we'll get into construction later this year. Will be built with a capacity of 4 million gallons per day. We will have about 3.2 million gallons when we turn the treatment plant on, so we will have capacity to build out that initial phase, and there are plans for future expansions of the plant to cover additional areas of the parish. But the expansion of the plant will include tying in individual treatment units, tying in new development, tying in existing community sewer systems that are not current NWI customers to continue to increase the capacity and volume of water taken outside of the local watershed. Happy to answer any questions about the process that we're going through, but in parishes like Ascension and others where we hope to potentially be able to replicate this project in the future, having continuity and the ability to remove as much wastewater outside of the local watershed without potential opt-outs is important.
Thank you, Ben. I heard a lot of good questions this morning, and I'll address a couple of them. To expand on what Ben referenced, our project will remove 72 package plants, which are the biggest issue that Representative Fontenot speaks of. We're going to remove that from a distressed watershed, which is the Pontchartrain watershed, and put it in the Mississippi River, right? But regarding being regulated by the Public Service Commission, I've been CEO and general manager of a utility for more than 10 years, regulated by the PSC, and I think they do a really good job. We don't just get a blanket approval for a rate increase. We have to do a rate case that assigns consultants that we pay for that justifies that rate increase. And I've seen it where I didn't get my whole rate increase. I've also seen it where they've regulated us in a formula rate plan where we've given rate decreases, okay? But specifically to Magnolia, if you have an issue with a company, then go with that company. They're a competitor. I'm not going to sit up here and speak bad about them, but I can tell you that I'm proud of what NWI is doing. We're bringing a solution. And our project not only eliminates 72 package plants, but we're upgrading the plants that will not go away. And we're increasing compliance every day to working towards 100% and improving the watershed of Lake Pontchartrain. I asked this specifically. He referenced $4,000 for a home system. So if we let 10% of the people who can afford $4,000 and they leave the system and we remove them from the rate base of the Louisiana Public Service Commission, who picks up that rate? Because by the Constitution of Louisiana, I am entitled to recover that revenue because we are a regulated utility that serves the people. And we are required and obligated to serve those customers. So who picks up that expense? And in regards to not cutting off a sewer customer, if they don't pay, what is my remedy? What do you suggest I do? No suggestions? Okay.
So you're not allowed to ask questions. So let's get that established. But we can talk.
Well, I can say it
so how?
rhetorically.
I guess the question is, how can you? That's what my question was.
So-
Is there a cutoff valve for a sewer line?
No, we can dig it up and shut it off. However,
so y'all do. Well, I wouldn't say y'all.
we've never done it.
But does
okay?
anyone do it?
Magnolia has and
Really?
others have, yes. But we do partner with water providers because that's the only way we can do it. How else do we remedy if I have electricity and you don't pay your bill, I cut it off. If you don't pay your natural gas, I cut it off. If I don't pay water, I cut it off. So we're required to do a service, yet you give me no remedy or you want no remedy for me to be able to recoup that revenue.
So I think it seems to me like from your opening statement, y'all are good actors. Y'all are good. Y'all are aggressive. Y'all are gonna be providing a good service. We're discussing and debating the bad actors, the ones who we get complaints from our constituents, the ones that aren't being served. So that's where we are. We're not trying to pick
1,000%.
on individuals who are going to be aggressive and take care of the citizens. So I want that to be clear.
Well, and I appreciate that. And I heard, I think it was Representative Jackson say it the best, perfect, good. Who gets punished, the perfect or the good? Myron Lambert says the CEO of National Water Infrastructure. I handle every Public Service Commission complaint. I handle every representative complaint. I handle every Ascension Parish complaint, and I talk to customers myself. So I can't control the people who are not here. I ask you to control the people who are not here and don't represent for the right reasons. I also can tell you that a lot of these systems, the reason people don't want to expand them is they're not charging enough. Look at the New Orleans Sewage and Water Board. When you charge $20 a month or $60 a month, there comes a time when the system is not maintained because there's not enough money. And without enough money, you're going to pay a tax one way or the other. East Baton Rouge Parish has a half-cent sales tax, and their average sewer rate that they pay is still over $65. I live in New Roads, Louisiana. The city of New Roads, provides that service.
Remember me?
I don't.
Okay. I wanted to ask you if you was from around Falls River, but I remembered you. But we'll talk about that offline.
We'll talk about it after. But I can tell you this. I live in an old home. It's off the ground. It's insulated even underneath, but I got to run my water during Hurricane Uri. My sewer bill was $300 because it's on an increasing block rate. Okay? That's rate making. My average sewer bill is $60 to $70 a month. There is no block rate like Baton Rouge that says, hey, we're going to exclude the summer months because you're growing your tomatoes, right? Because you're watering your lawn. Don't open Pandora's box because of one bad actor. I appreciate what you said. But there has to have remedies for utilities. We're not bad people. the good people, the good companies are doing it the right way. And if you want to see it, the template that's being done in Ascension Parish is going to be replicated in other places, other states. We have the support of the EPA through the WIFIA program. We have the support of DEQ, and we have the support of the Ascension Parish citizens who voted for us to do this. Thank you.
Good morning. Are we still on morning?
I don't believe.
On behalf of Ascension Parish, as they've stated, we had no business being in the sewer business. Our council members were never going to increase the rates. You don't get reelected doing that. And so we went and we pushed very hard and got a vote of the people to turn over our systems to NWI. They have done a phenomenal job. They address every issue that we have. And the parish was not good at doing it. Our water is now better today than it's ever been. And so we respectfully request, should this bill go forward, that it be amended to exclude Ascension Parish. If the bill does not go forward, I would recommend going after regulations for these companies as opposed to implementing this bill. Let's get the regulations and restrictions more severe to punish those companies that are not performing as they should.
Can y'all give me examples of regulating and punishing? It's not a trick question. We trying to find solutions.
I think DEQ's here, and they can probably speak to that better than us. We have compliance ratings. For instance, some of our older systems, we might have to have a biodegradable oxygen demand of 15, and then the newer ones at 10. Whereas when we remove these package plants for the new system that goes in the Mississippi River, it could be a higher BOD and a higher total dissolved suspended solids. And that comes through enforcement, which he was talking about. He pays for net DMRs, which is discharge monitoring reports. So I think the DEQ, they do random inspections on us. They do those compliance checks. We have to turn that in every month. And, I can tell you I answer every one of them. My name is on those DMRs, and we take it seriously. So I respectfully defer to DEQ for any type of regulatory oversight.
I understand. If you, let's see where the question is going. If you wanted to purchase, your company was purchasing a private one, I'll use for me, for example, Opelousas in Opelousas. Right. Do you have to get local approval for that purchase? Do they have to authorize that purchase?
So it does take a vote of the people or the electorate to turn over any type of revenue producing assets of a parish or municipality, unless it's some have stipulations that would say if you're 3/4 out of compliance or you're financially unable to do that, you can concede the system or sell it to a provider. In the instance of Ascension Parish, it required a vote of the people. The only assets we did not take into account were the assets that still had active bonds or some type of grant tied to it that was not legally defeased. And those are still under the parish ownership where we may operate them, but they own them.
So there's one area in my community that had one of these private systems. We'll have one. Well, there was a subdivision being built right next to it. So our taxing district developed a big sewer plant. Well, then the community that's on the private that has been neglected wanted to get connected to the new one that was government ran. And once the company found out, well, then obviously now they started doing a few upgrades. Those are the situations. I guess my question is, why can't we have the option if the people would like to go to that new system that government just placed in for the subdivision that's growing next to it? Why couldn't we bypass it? Do we have an out?
So we're regulated by Louisiana Public Service Commission. It's just like Entergy. If I'm on the city of New Roads, I can't just opt out and go to Entergy. If I'm on Point Capee Electric or Demco, Entergy can't come and take my customers, because once it's your area, it's a prescribed line or prescribed service, and it's yours, and you are obligated to serve. We are a monopoly, right? Or we are a regulated utility, and with that comes a great responsibility to provide that service at the lowest cost, highest reliability, safest manner possible. That's what we operate under. And again, if a competitor's not doing that, I respect what you're saying, and I've had people want to come to me, but that's not the case. For years, the Large Energy Users Group has lobbied government, Entergy, the PSC, for open competition. It doesn't work that way. We're a regulated utility, obligated to provide a service. It's protected by the Louisiana State Constitution, and I'm not saying it's perfect, but again, you can't let perfect stop good, and if it's good enough, you can't expect me to be perfect either because you don't want to pay for perfect. I could gold plate this system and be perfect, but that's the very reason I'm sitting here is because, all respect, Representative Fontenot, they don't want to pay for the system. I understand you can't charge $180, but when a pump that used to cost $1,500 20 years ago costs $5,500, and I got to have 2 at every lift station, and I got to have 4 blower packages, and I got to have $3,000 worth of telemetry, and oh, by the way, my electric bill went up 60%. Oh, I got to either have in a rural area, if I'm going to backhaul it to my system to monitor it, I either got to have Starlink or I got to have internet for another $125 for every setup. That doesn't cost $20 a month. It doesn't cost $60, with all due respect.
But if you have a system in Opelousas that's running well and your company decide to go buy one in Ascension and it's going to cost you $400 million to get it upgraded, does that cost possibly spread out all the way to the Opelousas citizens?
No, and that was just proven by CLECO when they were purchased. It was called ring fence financing. And when the Public Service Commission looks at a system, they put a ring fence around it. And you cannot subsidize one class of customers for the other. So if I go in and I buy a system in Texas, that doesn't go in a Louisiana rate base.
Well, let's just talk about Louisiana.
But it doesn't matter if I go buy Opelousas. It doesn't work that way. If you look at the Public Service Commission's website, there are different rates for different parishes.
For sewer systems?
Yes.
So your rates in one parish would be the same in another parish?
Mine are, but when you start buying all of the systems, but I'm in a lot less parishes than Magnolia, and I'm in a different model, but they do have different dollar amounts for different parishes. So when you go into the Public Service Commission for a rate increase, right?
You cannot use the cost. Can you use the cost that it's costing in one parish and the loss in another one to say, hey, we need rate increases across the board because we're actually losing?
It depends if you purchase the customers or if you expand it that way. So, for instance, some of these systems, they're in compliance and they say, you just take it over and start charging me $49 or $59 a month, and they're happy. Well, that's a good situation. But when I got to go in and spend $20 million to buy a system, that's going to take Public Service Commission approval, and that goes into a rate case and approval to buy that system. And then furthermore, the whole premise behind a regulated utility is that you're depreciating an asset the day you buy it. So it's a return on asset business. So if I got a $100 million project and I never ever invest, when I go to that rate case 3 to 5 years, or I'm on a formula rate plan, and each year I submit my Public Service Commission finance reports, if I'm not investing in my system, my rates are going to go down. The only way to continue growing a regulated utility is as the assets depreciate, you continue investing, and in a perfect world, you would keep the rate flat and continue growing and growing and growing. Obviously, inflation outpaced that, so that doesn't always happen, but that is the very premise of a regulated utility. That's the purpose of it.
Thank you. Questions from Rep. Barrault?
I forgot what my question was. I was just going to, at the appropriate time, and this might not be it, to propose an amendment to the bill to have it a subject to approval of the local government.
Okay. Yeah. Members, Representative Barrault, or do we have?
Mm-hmm.
All All right, members, we can get Mr. Riley to explain it if you want, but I think from my understanding, it's just saying that, well, let me let you explain it because you're going to go straight to the point. But basically, the locals will have full control over any permission.
Parish.
So members, again, this was an amendment that was prepared ahead of time, so it's an in-concept amendment. And it would be at the beginning of the sentence on page 1, line 8, we would add, subject to the approval of the parish governing authority where the property is located, comma, a person may install and operate.
Questions, Representative Jackson? I'm sorry.
City as well. I was going to ask you, she doesn't mind adding parish or city government, because in some instances, the unincorporated area. Well, you have some unincorporated areas where the city provides. They can be put on the system. They can petition that city to be put on their system.
So it seemed like he's saying whatever is governing authority for that address.
Whatever. That's what I'm saying. Make sure that it's
Sometimes a
parish
city
or-
could incorporate, I
Right.
guess is what he's saying.
So those homeowners can petition their cities to put them on their system. So that's what I'm saying, parish or city.
So the language would be subject to the approval of the local governing authority where the property is located? Okay.
Representative Turner, questions?
Okay, is anybody from the PSC here?
I don't see anyone, no, sir.
So how would this amendment get into the PSC's business of regulating?
Well, again, I am regulated by the Louisiana Public Service Commission. The revenues of regulated utilities is protected by Louisiana state constitution. So even if you tell a customer that you can get off the system, I don't have to give the customer up, right? And even if I do give the customer up, again, if let's say I got 20,000 customers and 10,000 come and say I got $4,000 and I'm going to get off your system, I'm going to take the cost and spread them over the other 10,000 or other 5,000 that I still have, and I'm going to get the same revenue.
Understood. My question is more based, I guess, Mr. Chairman, I don't want to object to the amendment. I do want to work on this amendment, make sure we're not going into the PSC area. If we could work with them, because that's who regulates this, and I think we're kind of stepping in their area. So I'm not.
It's not my amendment.
It's not. It's not. I'm not trying to step on your toes, but I don't want to come up with an idea that causes other problems in other ways with the PSC, because that's why we have that group. That's why we elect those members.
So, Representative Turner, I hear you. I think this bill, if it's to move forward today, it's going to be a lot more discussions and figuring out what we can and can't do.
And
I think
I'm not going to object. I just wish we would take a moment, think about that, and move forward. I've made my point. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I think the effort was in good faith to try to say, hey, do what your local government wants. Ascension Parish is happy with what they have. They have a good relationship. Let it roll.
I'm not saying I don't like the amendment. I love what she's doing.
You're questioning the authority between us
But
and the PSC.
I question our role in this, and I question the PSC role in this and how it affects everybody. That's my
Valid,
question.
valid question.
Thank you, sir.
And I think in the future hearings, we'll have more than just NWI come and testify. Maybe y'all don't even have to come, just come listen.
I'll be.
How many, well, we on the amendment, never mind. No, we're gonna vote on the amendment. Okay, members, are there any more questions on the amendment? They're
If I-
coming.
if
No
I may.
questions? I'm sorry.
If I may,
I'll grant it, yes.
if you could please include in this amendment to exclude Ascension Parish. Our governing authority has already made this determination by agreeing to sell our assets to NWI. Our residents have already voted and have agreed upon it, and we do not want to have to, this was
So
years in the making.
I think for the
and
sake of
difficult.
this amendment right now, we're not excluding anyone, but y'all are protected. Y'all have spoken, your people have spoken. You're gonna be fine. So any questions on the amendment? Any opposition on the amendment? Hearing none, the amendment is adopted. Okay, so I'll go back. Listen, Ascension's gonna be okay. Just trust me, okay?
Our
Y'all gonna be
council
okay.
doesn't want to vote this again, let's put it that way.
No, yeah, you don't have to.
you can't make everybody
If this
happy.
bill is to pass, y'all will take no. I mean, there's nothing that's gonna happen to Ascension unless your local parish government decides that they want to do anything. But if your people have voted, I'm sure that the government can't even override it. So, we're not trying to affect. I do have a question before you get up. How many private regulators do we have that owns these systems across the state? Any idea? How many private companies?
I couldn't speak to that. I know there's
10, 5?
I'd say between 5 and 10, but no, it's a whole lot more than that because, for instance, if you are a mobile home park operator and you have a system like several in Point Capee, if you are a certified operator, you can own and operate that system, and there's many, many, many of those in place. In terms of our customers, we have 23 to 25,000 customers that we serve, predominantly in Ascension Parish.
Okay. Mr. Lambert, I want to personally thank you and your team for coming. Y'all the only one showed up, and your information was very, very valuable.
Thank you. And again, I want to thank Ascension Parish for showing up. The people of Ascension Parish voted this. It's been a long time coming. And I think you as representatives would want to take into account the designation of the Pontchartrain watershed being an impaired watershed. And the biggest problem is these onesies and twosies, because while I appreciate everything that was said today, when that homeowner puts that system in, until it backs up and 10 years later and that aerator isn't working, they're putting raw sewage to the ditch. It's a problem, and I commend DEQ, the EPA, and Ascension Parish for working with us. And again, I'm going to say one last time, utilities are not villains. We're providing a service, and we are good actors. Thank you.
Members, does anyone wanted to get the DEQ up to speak? Are we ready to wrap this up? Ready to roll? All right, Representative Fontenot, if you would like to close on your bill. There you go.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members, and I appreciate the debate. Look, I clearly recognize there's some issues that need to be worked out and concerned. I appreciate the gentleman. I think I spoke to him yesterday. He's highly educated in the process. He brings up some valid points, but you know, one thing he said is there comes a point in time that there isn't enough money. And so what happens is these companies come in and they buy old dysfunctional systems that allows them to put minimal dollars into them and drive the rate up. Goes exactly to what the lady said. She said you never could get reelected if you was on the parish council. So they passed the burden of sending off the rate increase, or quote unquote the tax increase, to somebody else, give it to a private company they wash their hands with. And the last one I want to say is, he is right. You can't go to energy if you got energy. You can't go to CLECO. You can't go to SWEPCO. But what you could do is you could put solar panels on your home and provide your own energy. You could buy a generator and buy your own energy. So you have an alternative method to get power in that public service. The only one the law prohibits you from having a second option is in sewer. And all I'm trying to do is give the landowner the right to do what it chooses to do on its own property.
Members, Rep. Fontenot has thoroughly presented the bill. We do realize there's a lot of discussion need to go on more if this bill is going to make it through the floor. I will make a motion to report HB 235 favorable with amendments. Are there any questions? Any objections? Hearing none, HB 235 is reported with amendments.
Thank you, members.
Mm-hmm. All right, Representative Jackson have made a motion for adjournment. Hearing no opposition, we adjourn.